All right, so this is Algebra Review 2, and I'm going to go over number 2. And you can see that there are some decimals in this simultaneous equations. So I think the first thing I would do is I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of those decimals first off. All right, so the first one has 2 decimal places. This has 2 decimal places, but this one has more. This one has 3 decimal places. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this equation through by 1,000. That way it'll get rid of all those decimals. So when I do that, I'm going to multiply 0.25 by 1,000, which is the same thing as moving the decimal over 3 places. So the first equation will become 250y minus 10x equals 5. Now I've gotten rid of all those pesky little decimals, so I can keep going. Now the second equation only has 1 decimal, so I can go ahead and multiply this equation by 10, and that'll get rid of those decimals. Or another way of saying that is I'm just going to move every decimal over by 1. So if I move this one over, it's going to be 2x. I'm going to line up my x's. So I'm going to put that underneath the negative 10 just so they line up. This negative 2y has to get multiplied by the 10. So this is going to be negative 20y. And 0 times 10 is still going to be 0. So now I have 2 equations and 2 variables. I don't have any more of those pesky little decimals, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But if I just added those now, I would still have x's and y's, so that's not going to help me. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these equations and multiply it by something so that I can get rid of the x's or the y's. And it looks like it would be easiest to get rid of the x's. So I'm going to take my second equation and I'm going to multiply everything through by 5. That will give me a positive 10x here and a negative 10x there. So that'll go ahead and get rid of those x's for me. So I'm just going to rewrite the first equation. 250y minus 10x equals 5. And when I multiply this through, I'll get negative 100y plus 10x. And again, 0 times 5 is still 0. But now when I go ahead and add those equations, this will add to 0, so I can just kind of cancel those out. So over here, I'll have 150y equals 5. And in order to solve for y, I'm going to divide through by 150. So y is going to equal 5 over 150, but I can reduce that by dividing the top and the bottom by 5. So that'll be 1 over 30. So now I know that my y value is 1 over 30. But I need to find out what my x value is. Well, I can pick any of these equations and plug it in, but it looks like it would be easiest for me to plug it into this equation right here. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say negative 20. I'm going to move this down a little. Negative 20. But instead of putting y, I'm going to put 1 over 30 plus 2x equals 0. Now I have one equation and one variable. So this is going to be negative 20 over 30 plus 2x equals 0. Well, negative 20 over 30, I can go ahead and just cross out those zeros and I'll get negative 2/3. I'm going to add that to the other side. Stop bouncing. So I'm going to have 2x equals 2/3. Now I can either divide both sides by 2 or multiply both sides by a half. So if I multiply the whole equation through by a half, I'll have x equals 2/6. But 2/6 can be reduced to 1/3. So x is 1/3 and y is 1/30. And there you have the answer. If you have any more questions, let me know.